So hi, I'm Eve Gaut from Parrot PR and Marketing.
And I'm Sarah Cull from Parrot PR and Marketing as well. And just to let you know, the reason that we're here today, obviously we run Parrot PR together, but Eve and I combined have 30 years experience in the marketing sector. So hopefully we know a bit about what we're talking about. And a lot of that has been spent in the specification sector.
Okay, so today we're going to talk you through a 6-step process of how you can light up your marketing. So what should you be implementing prior to going forward with a marketing campaign? Think Parrot, obviously. Then we're going to look through some examples, real life, of the good, the bad and the ugly, before we introduce our very own social media campaign, #ParrotOnTour. And we will be around later, so if you've got any questions, feel free to grab Sarah and I and we can squawk marketing with you.
So let's start with P, which is for purpose. So when we're talking about purpose, we're really talking about what do you want to achieve from your marketing activity. I think there's a tendency to always think that marketing should just lead to an increase in sales, whether that's for a product or a service. But it could be that you want to increase engagement with your brand, you want to increase awareness, you want to improve your following or your engagement on social media. It could be that you want to carry out some marketing activity to see how you fare in a different market or with a different audience. And a lot of the time you'll find that sales would come off the back of that anyway, so that doesn't always have to be your number one goal. And the reason why it's really important to have a purpose as well is then you can actually plan your activity and make sure that at the end you can evaluate it. But we'll come on to that a bit later. But if you have a purpose, any time and budget that you put into your marketing activity, which let's face it, it's time consuming and it can be expensive, even if it's a little bit, it's all relative to your business, then you can make sure that that's really working hard for you and actually doing what you want to achieve.
So A is, of course, for audience. So once you've identified your why, the purpose, it's then your who, the audience. So if you sell to everyone, it's fair to say that you'll sell to, if you try to sell to everyone, you'll sell to no one. So on that basis, it's fair to say that you need to understand and identify who you need to reach. And that audience can be determined by a number of things. It may be the demographic, it may even be their key behaviours. But if you identify your audience, it means you can also identify the best channel in which you can engage with them from. So let's just look at a few specific examples. So email marketing in the design industry has an average open rate of 17% with a click rate of 1.5%. If we then look at the architecture and construction industry, for example, the open rate is 23.13%, so quite a bit higher, and the click-through rate is 2.55%. So it's fair to say that the email marketing for the design and architecture and construction industries is much higher when benchmarked against other industries. For Instagram, 2% of all posts do receive some form of engagement, and actually the industry average is 1.6%, so we're also exceeding expectation on Instagram. However, on the downside, for Twitter, we have less than 0.1% of followers that engage with posts. Actually, the industry average is 0.9%. So you could say that concentrating your energy in that particular area may not be worth it. And the takeaway that what actually works is the email marketing and also the Instagram side of things. So just key things to consider there.
And then step 3 is about being realistic. And this follows on nicely from audience, because we're talking about if you know the space that you're operating in, then you know what you can honestly achieve with your marketing activity. This isn't to say that it's not a good thing to have big ideas and to be creative and push yourselves, but if you know that there's a certain open rate or a certain channel that works better for your industry or for your market, then really it's best to concentrate your efforts in somewhere that you know you're going to get a return on investment. There's also other things to consider, such as your brand awareness. If you're a relatively new company or you're just starting out, your brand recognition within the industry is going to be relatively limited because that's just the way it is when you're starting out. So it might be that you need to do a bit of housekeeping first, so just get all your assets together, get your social media channels up and running, and then really once you kind of build up that level of initial marketing activity, that you can then really start to build up bigger initiatives and engage with more people that way. And then number 4 is about being responsive. So when you carry out any kind of marketing activity, you're obviously putting messages out there and people are going to want to get back in touch with you, and that's what you would want from it. You would want some kind of two-way engagement process. So if you know your purpose is sales, for example, and people contact you looking for more information, who's going to respond to that? How will they respond to that? When will they respond to that? Will it be that you send them something on email? Will it be that you send a brochure? Will someone phone them? By having those steps in place that you know who will do it, when they'll do it, and how they'll do it, then you can make sure that that's already planned out before people are getting in touch. And then you're on the back burner thinking, what do we do now? We hadn't planned for this. And I think the other thing is, if you're putting messages out there that you're trying to collect data, so if you're saying, for example, drop your email here and we'll get in touch, then make sure that you do get in touch. If people have given you that information, make use of it, and they'll also be expecting something from you. So that way they can know that you're actually a brand that capitalises on opportunities and is really interested in working with them.
O is, of course, for originative, and this is really where the magic happens. So this is where originality and creativity join forces, if you like. There's lots of marketing noise out there, so you need to make sure that you're heard. So understanding how you're going to stand out is key. What is your key differentiator in your message? It might be that it's a unique selling point with your product or service, or alternatively, it may be that you're going to go out there with a guerrilla marketing campaign that's going to wow people because it's so different. So it's fair to say similarities will happen. Ideas are built on ideas. They're in fact a compilation of ideas. So you're never really going to get something truly original. However, you can put your own stamp on it and make sure that it exudes your brand and it talks about what you want, the key messaging that you've identified. So it's great to be different, absolutely. I encourage it. Be creative. We're in a creative industry and we're trying to engage with creative people. So why, therefore, would we not do creative things?
And then finally, to conclude on our 6-step process, before we move on to some real-life examples, we've got takeaways.
Not the food type.
No, not the food type, although it's Friday and we're probably all really looking forward to our Deliveroo. We're talking about what have you achieved when it comes to your activity, and can you measure this against your targets? So, which takes us back to point number 1 of your purpose. If your purpose was to get 100 new followers on Instagram, have you achieved that? Have you achieved half of it? Have you exceeded this? And it's not just about looking at what you've achieved, but it's then looking at what you can learn from it. So if it didn't go according to plan, can you ascertain why? And if you can ascertain why, how do you then take that and apply it to future activity? So all activity is always worthwhile, even if it's just the fact that you learn something from it and you can hone that for future activity. And there's a good kind of light bulb pun here that was from Albert Einstein. And it's about the definition of insanity is if you always do what you're doing, you'll always get what you're getting. And that's essentially what applies to marketing. So if you run the same activity, you'll get the same results. So take the good bits, leave out the bad bits, and make sure that you use those in future activity to perfect what you're doing.
Okay, so now we're just going to go through what we've called the good, the bad and the ugly, and you'll see why when we go through the examples. They're effectively real-life examples from big-name brands, Lacoste, Cadbury's, Build-A-Bear, Celeb Boutique, where they've actually either done a really good campaign or actually royally messed up. So I'm sure we're all famous and recognise the crocodile on the Lacoste polo shirt. So Lacoste did a campaign with ICUN, which is called Save Our Species, SOS. And it's a 3-year partnership whereby they actually replaced a crocodile on the polo shirt with an endangered species. And the exact number that were produced were the exact number of endangered species that were known to be remaining in the wild. So really quite a clever campaign. All profits also went to ICUN, which was a great tick for corporate social responsibility. So did the campaign work well? Absolutely. It was a multi-award winning. It went viral on Instagram, Facebook, mainstream press, TV coverage globally around the world. The polo shirts also sold out in 24 hours, so it just goes to show how impactful it was. And the campaign videos and content were actually shared over 600,000 times, and that was at the last count. So it's fair to say it was a great campaign, and they definitely did think Parrot. And this one, we're probably quite recognise this wrapper. This is the dairy milk wrapper from Cadbury's, but without the words on. So this is a new campaign that actually only launched at the beginning of this month, and it's called Donate Your Words. In support of Age UK, Cadbury's have removed the wording from all of their packaging to actually draw attention to the fact that there's loneliness in elderly people. And what they are doing is donating 30 pence per bar to Age UK. So did Cadbury's think Parrot? I think it's a great campaign. They're a household name, and they're tapping into the fact that they've got charities and they're doing their corporate social responsibility. But it's probably too soon to say how great the campaign and how effective it was, because we don't have the stats yet. We're 3 weeks into what I believe is going to be a very successful campaign.
So now we'll move on to the bad and the ugly. The teddy bear's not ugly, it's quite cute, but what it represents is a really unfortunate campaign. So around this time last year, Build-A-Bear, which is that kind of bear factory, it's in shopping centres, you go in, you build a bear for a very expensive amount, it takes like 45 minutes. And they came up with a one-day stunt where parents would pay their child's age for a Build-A-Bear. So obviously if your child is 4, you pay £4. So obviously, tons of kids got really excited about this. Perhaps their parents couldn't normally afford to do Build-A-Bear. So queues formed really, really early for this one-day event. It was in-store only. But what Build-A-Bear hadn't worked out in advance was the overwhelming demand for this activity. So there were massive queues, in-store crushes, supplies ran out really, really quickly. So you can imagine the kind of carnage of upset children, angry parents. They all took to social media to criticise Build-A-Bear. And then to make matters worse, it was a UK and a US activity, so it got picked up by national and international media. It was crushing for the brand. They kind of gave people a voucher to come back and have like some money off in the future, but by then the damage for the brand was done. And in fact, I was walking past a Build-A-Bear the other day, and it was all I could think about was this kind of really negative activity. So did they think Parrot? The purpose was there, but they didn't think about the size of the audience. They didn't think about how they'd respond to it. And their takeaway was that they really need to manage something like this a lot better in the future. And then this is an example of where social media can go wrong. So several years ago, a company called Celeb Boutique, which sell like fashion inspired by celebrities, they jumped on board of a trending hashtag Aurora, and claimed that the reason it was trending was because they have a Kim Kardashian-inspired dress, which is called Aurora. They massively misjudged that, because it wasn't. It was trending because there was a cinema shooting in a town in America called Aurora. And if they'd just taken one moment to just check why that hashtag was trending, this wouldn't have happened, and it certainly wouldn't have had the negative connotations about their brand that it did. If we look at the Parrot element of it, their response was shocking. It took them hours and hours to respond, and then it was a very half-hearted apology, and it left people feeling very, very negative about their brand. And also the fact that they were capitalising on this tragic event really didn't do them any favours at all.
So in summary, think Parrot before implementing a marketing campaign. Think about the why, your purpose. Think about who you're going to target, your audience. Be realistic about what you want to achieve, and make sure you manage the responsive element, and that can be good, that can be bad. Make sure it's originative, and make sure that you think about the takeaways. What do you want to get out of the campaign?
So now we're going to talk about a bit of marketing and social media in practice by launching our hashtag Parrot on Tour campaign, which Eve is going to run us through.
It's quite a simple campaign. I'm sure you've all seen these lovely parrots floating around. If you need one, please come and find us. For those of you that are watching live or watching at a different time, you can still participate by taking a photo of a parrot, writing the word, perhaps even getting a live parrot, depends where you are in the world. But snap a photo with it and quite simply upload it to social media using the hashtag Parrot on Tour. You'll then tag us and we'll run you through our social media accounts in just a moment. Now, you've got a month to do this because we appreciate we're all busy and we want to look at the stands here today. So the closing date is going to be the 20th of October. Each unique entry that we get, we are going to donate £1 to Safe Haven Parrot charity, which is actually a refuge for parrots. So we're aligning that with our brand. And we're going to match the donation to the winner's charity. So we will randomly select a winner, and that winner will be able to give us a charity that they would like to match the donation to. So we're ticking our box for corporate social responsibility, although we're not quite corporate yet.
Okay, so there are our social channels. So we're at Parrot_PR on Twitter and Instagram. And you can find us on LinkedIn by searching for our company name, or you can find either Eve or myself. And like I say, we've got the details afterwards, so feel free to come and find us. And we tweet using the hashtag Squawk of the Town as well. So plenty of ways to find us.
So there's nothing left to say, really, other than to have a squawk-tastic rest of the day.